Back with us on the SportsMax Zone. On set with us, President of Cricket West Indies, Dave Cameron. Dave is seeking a fourth term as President of Cricket West Indies. Elections for executive positions at CWI are 9 days away. Elections set for March 24 in Jamaica. He'll be challenged by Ricky Skerritt, and his incumbent Vice President, Emmanuel Nanthan, will be challenged by Dr. Kishore Shallow. So, you gave an address to an audience of US-based stakeholders, let me call them that, talking about the future of West Indies cricket and giving an overview of what you had achieved, your administration had achieved since you took office. Among the things that you said then was the future of West Indies cricket is, well, the USA was the next frontier to conquer. We're going to come to that. I want to take up the issue of Whipper. You were at pains to point out, you gave what you said was a chronology of events around the tour of India, the ill-fated tour of India, and the players withdrawing and the players going on strike, and the agreements that were to have been signed before the players went on, and how you and Wavell Hines, Whipper boss, worked to iron out the issues and so forth. Now we hear from the Shallow Skerritt ticket that the relationship between yourself and Wavell Hines, that chummy public relationship, tells a lie about the true state of affairs between Cricket West Indies and the players who make up the constituent parts of Whipper. That relationship in real terms is still fraught with friction and it's cantankerous, and that you and Wavell Hines, as the faces of both organizations, make it seem as if, oh, all is well and jolly between the players and the administrators. Respond to that.
Show me the evidence that there is an issue between Whipper and Cricket West Indies.
Dr. Shallow gave one example. He mentioned the T20 series just now against England about how players were notified that they were not going to be selected for the thing. That's just one example. But he says that beyond that...
How is that an issue for West Indies cricket and the players, Whipper and West Indies cricket? That's what I'm trying to understand.
No, he was addressing what he suggested was a misleading look that all was well between the Cricket West Indies and the players. And he was suggesting in that instance that players who were jilted, T20 players who would normally play T20 cricket and were not selected for the T20 because the ODI team was used, were actually in the background seething and upset that a decision like that would be made. So they were saying that the players were upset.
Right, so how is that an issue for West Indies cricket, Dave Cameron, the president, and the Whipper relationship? So I'm trying to, I'm not trying to be facetious. Are you serious
that maybe these players weren't a part of Whipper? Because we know that a lot of the players who are playing for the West Indies aren't Whipper players.
Well, I don't know, because I haven't had a complaint. My understanding is that those players were never notified that they were selected. So I don't know what players were not selected for T20 versus ODI. So all I'm saying to you, Lance, what I can report to you is that the relationship with Whipper, Wavell and myself, I'm not going to apologize for my relationship with Wavell. Wavell's first game at Kensington, I captained him. We've had a relationship from he was 13. I can't change that overnight. I inherited that relationship at West Indies cricket. He was president of Whipper when I became president.
But Dave, that's public knowledge. That's public knowledge. But where it is going? You asked the question and I was waiting on you to finish with Lance before I intervened. Hold on. But here's the thing.
Yes.
What the point being made by the statement by Dr. Shallow, as an example, is that, look, publicly, the Whipper boss and the Cricket West Indies boss make it seem as if there are harmonious relationships between both units, both entities. But in real terms, you have a communication problem, and you have players not feeling as if the Cricket West Indies as an entity is valuing them enough and putting enough store in the quality of the right relationship. But if you follow Dave Cameron and Wavell Hines, you would think that all is well, players, the communication is on time, and all the other vital things in the relationship are settled.
Dave, before you even answer that,
very important.
Before you even answer that, I will add to what George suggests, that many of the West Indies current players are not even a part of Whipper. So herein lies part of the issue.
Here you go.
That a lot of the players who are actually representing the West Indies aren't interested in being a part of Whipper, probably because they think that Whipper is too harmonious with...
It's a CWI surrogate,
yeah.
is what they're saying.
Well, again...
Well, isn't that something that would
hold-
concern you as the president?
No.
Why not?
Why would it concern me?
Because we're talking about West Indies players.
Yes. But we want a harmonious relationship, and what we have now is an association
But it
that
ostracizes
works,
those who aren't a part of WIPA.
but it ostracizes
Including
them.
the captain. Is Jason Holder...
I am not aware.
No, he's not.
But how does that ostracize them in that they
Because we're talking about the relationship between WIPA and Cricket West Indies.
But I have an excellent relationship with Jason. So if there are issues that Jason is concerned about that WIPA is not addressing, then Jason can address that to me or to the CEO or anybody else. So what I'm saying, Lance, I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill, right?
No.
We've had situations when Dinanath Ramnarayan was a head of WIPA. A lot of players weren't part of WIPA. There are no issues. So why are we making an issue that some of the players
Let me answer that.
who are test cricketers and first test cricketers are not part of it?
In your vast experience in business, look, here's how it works.
Yes.
The trade union as the bargaining unit, as WIPA is.
Right.
Cricket West Indies as the administering entity who controls cricket.
Sure.
If it is that you have a bargaining unit where most of the employees and the most influential employees are not part of that bargaining unit, but then the head of the administering entity says, well, look, I have a good relationship with the foreman or the supervisor or the manager of that group of workers in that category. That is a fragmentation of the weight of responsibility and the weight of accountability that would normally be established between an administering entity and the bargaining unit. Because if it is that Jason Holder and other influential players are not part of WIPA, but then on the sideline Dave says, well, Jason and I have open channel communication, that doesn't bode well for the strength of WIPA as a collective, and that is part of what Shallow and Skerritt are saying.
So what we would like is to go back to an acrimonious relationship.
No, but you've left that behind, Dave.
So tell me, George, what would you like to see? Wavell and I arguing every day.
No. What we'd like to see
No.
is that the majority, let's not even say 100%, but at least the majority of players representing the West Indies feeling comfortable being a part of WIPA and being a part of this harmonious relationship with the West Indies.
And how does Dave Cameron?
And I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. But here's the thing.
So I'm trying to.
I see what you're saying.
I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
How is that Dave?
You say that's not your prerogative as CWI president.
No, but because I'm saying to you that the organization is running, we have more players than we've ever had. The players have been given increases. I don't hear that there are any issues, none that I'm aware of. So I'm trying to understand where the issues are coming from, where the discomfort for our players, that they have a voice that is not being listened to by WIPA, that we should be doing something different. So all I'm saying, George, I am the president of the organization. We are going along. We've agreed 26% of our revenue goes to players. We've been paying players accordingly. There are no issues with late payments, whatever the case is. So I hear you, but I'm saying to you, we're trying to create a problem where there's none. So if players are unhappy with their fees, I don't hear that. Yeah. They're playing, they're happy, we're winning matches. So are we trying to create problems because in our minds the union and the organization should never be friends? I mean, are we? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, trade unions work best in the industrial climate.
That is a past,
but
George.
Dave,
that's a past.
Dave, the industrial climate works best when there is there's enmity, because you wouldn't want that because that's bad for business.
Yeah.
But when there's a certain distance, but I guess I see what you're saying. That look, that's not your responsibility really as CWI president. But the reality is, players feel almost as if in some way, and this is the real thing, Lance, almost as if there's some behind the scenes a divide and rule. There's a mechanism, and this is where the real thing is. You've asked what it is. There's a real effort at play to keep WIPA splintered, to pull some men close to you, because clearly, if Jason Holder is close to you and has your ear, then he doesn't need to be a part of WIPA to get his views represented because he can always call you. But that weakens WIPA itself. So what I hear them saying is that there is a divide and rule system at play, and that this is inimical to the long-term health of the relationship of WIPA as an entity and of the CWI, and then the link between both.
And the solution is?
And the solution is to, as a president,
right,
steer the course of the CWI in such a manner that players know that, look, I don't want to be negotiating with you or helping to solve your problems through the back door. You have an entity, a vehicle such as WIPA, that player matters ought to properly be channeled and sorted out through. Go there, and then both parties can sit down on entities rather than you coming and calling me. But you can foster that.
But that's exactly what happens, George.
No, but that's what is being reflected as splintering, Dave. That's what I'm saying to you.
What is splintering?
That's not my words, you know. I'm telling you what is being said.
So I'm really sorry that we're belaboring this because it's really a non-issue in my mind.
It's not a non-issue.
My relationship with Jason is one of, you are leading the front office, I am leading the back office. Jason and I don't discuss matters to do with pay or office and that kind of thing. My discussion with Jason, for example, my last message to him is, what's the plan for your off season now leading up to the World Cup? And he said, well, I'm going to England, I'm going to do this, that. Those are the communication I have with Jason, because I need to make sure that he's rested, ready for us to win the World Cup. Yeah. My communication to Jason is, Jason, if you have any problems with anything other than those things, speak to the manager, coach, WIPA, to deal with it. Jason and I go to dinner, we talk about West Indies cricket overall and our plans and how we want to move it forward. So George, that's what I'm trying to understand right now.
Yeah.
And I have deliberately, because there are factions within the board that feel that players should have another voice and set up another organization. I'm saying no. There's one WIPA. You either join WIPA or you take whatever WIPA
and it is precisely because of your approach in that regard why this is an issue, an important issue, because you've seen the importance.
I would have another organization, so I'm trying to understand.
But Dave, you have said that you have dismissed talk of a parallel organization because there already exists a vehicle.
Absolutely.
So let that vehicle do its work. And that's precisely why it's not a non-issue, because you recognize the importance of the vehicle for the players working effectively. And we're just raising to you real issues that are raised by people who say, to suggest that is why that relationship between WIPA and Cricket West Indies isn't working best. But here's what, in the short time we have left, your manifesto for re-election, your platform, what is it that you bring for the fourth term?
Bring?
Yes, for the fourth term. You brought something for 3 terms already. You brought something for 3 terms already. So but
I wouldn't use bring.
Are you going to continue for the fourth term?
Well, what do we add? So for example, I told you we lost $22 million last year.
Yes.
We're currently, how we fund that has been relationships, and we've gotten loans locally, but we're now finalizing a long-term bond with one of the banks in Jamaica. But long-term, that's not sustainable. We've never had what I would call equity, or we've never had reserves in West Indies cricket, and we have massive swings.
Yes.
The next 4 years see us with a diluted content, while we have context going forward, because as you're aware, we start in the summer with the Test Championship against India, and that's the first match in the championship as well as the Ashes, and so all the ranking points go away. So when we beat India, we start over. So when we beat India in the summer, we'll be number 1 in the world.
So we should bet on that?
I can't answer that on air. Okay. We can talk offline.
Yes.
But the challenges we have are now, how do we change the economics of world cricket in order to make West Indies viable? And so those are the battles we are fighting within the ICC. We've done papers on the regulating the T20 leagues, about solidarity payments coming back to West Indies cricket. And the last time I was on air, we were discussing, and players were arguing about that we're taking 20% of their money coming to Cricket West Indies. Well, that has been working with some of the cricket boards, but not all. And we're having to have bilateral discussions rather than having regulation that speaks to all of these things. We also have issues with all the major events being held in England, India, and Australia.
Yes.
And they're getting sanction fees, bigger share of the revenues from ICC. So those are the battles that we're fighting. But we're placed within the Financial and Commercial Affairs Committee, the Nominations Committee, and within the Strategic Planning Group within the ICC. So that's where we're now trying to make those changes so that West Indies cricket can be sustainable. And within 2 years, we want to take Windies public. So those are the big ticket items.
That's what you bring for the fourth term. You want to go public.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So to make everybody own a piece of West Indies cricket while we grow and really exploit the brand worldwide.
Yeah, one issue there that Skerritt brought up in a public forum in Barbados earlier this week, or was it late last week, about the demise of the High Performance Center in Barbados,
yes.
which I'm sure as a governing body, you and administrators had credited with developing a lot of these players who are now beginning to shine at the test level for the West Indies, players like Shea Hope and so on. How do you explain the demise of the High Performance Center? Because Skerritt criticized the board's decision or acceptance of that happening, and how would you want to revive something like that if by your own admission it had value?
All right, so let us first take out the word demise, because we didn't close the High Performance Center. Sagicor sponsorship came to an end. There was unreconciled balances, differences at the academy. Then the opportunity came to own our own facility in Antigua with the Prime Minister of Antigua, the government of Antigua. And so we took it as a no-brainer. We were spending millions of dollars on investing in infrastructure at UWI. And so we moved the High Performance Center to Antigua. It was our home. We own the CCG. A very, very valuable asset. That is something we've added to our arsenal. It has a restaurant, it has a athletic center, car park, and we're looking to build our head offices there and the cricket experience going forward. Yeah. So we haven't closed the High Performance Center, and the High Performance is a system that can be transported.
It's not a venue.
It's not a venue anywhere. And so I keep hearing this about closing. We never closed it. But I want to make the point. The university, like most of these other organizations that are funded by the governments of the region, are in debt, are indebted from the governments. Most of the governments are under IMF agreements. And so Cricket West Indies don't want to get into that kind of a scenario. So we are trying to be self-sustainable as an organization while partnering with our government. Yeah. It's very, very important. But at the same time, we don't want to get ourselves in a place. And what is being asked of us is that we fund programs in these institutions. We don't have the resources. Yeah. We simply don't have resources to have a seventh team and to stretch ourselves any further than we are. What we want is a system where there's tension for the top 66 starting spots in our regional tournament to ensure that we're producing the best talent for West Indies.
Short answer question for you. Out of 10, 10 being the highest, how confident are you of re-election?
11.
All right. In terms of the critical delegate count, 12 votes in the hat, based on your canvas, based on your work, how many have you secured already?
6.
You've secured 6 already?
Correct.
All right.
Can we ask just one more question, George, because the time is pretty much going. Rav Gonzalez issued a statement recently about meeting with the ICC and getting some sort of harmony with regard to his view on certain things about West Indies cricket and the ICC. Initially, we had heard that the ICC wasn't willing to meet with them unless you were there.
Correct.
Apparently, the meeting happened without you.
Correct.
What's that about?
Prime Minister Gonzalez happened to be in Dubai on other businesses, requested a meeting with the chief executive, who called me to ask me permission to meet with him since he was there on a courtesy call. And I'm awaiting the minutes of the meeting. So I don't want to say much to rebut a Prime Minister, but David Richardson is actually outgoing CEO and would not have been able to be in a position to give any comfort in
Some
what
of the
is being
discussion we
suggested.
understand had something to do with the Cricket West Indies being a private body, and compared to other administrators or governing bodies of world cricket, it's in isolation. It doesn't happen anywhere else.
So we're not a private body. We're an incorporated body. I mean, what does private mean? Because we're incorporated, we should be a public. Most of all the territorial boards, Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad, are created by an act of parliament. So they are not private bodies.
Yes.
But we're incorporated in the BVI.
Yes.
And that's how we're able to manage our business. That's how we're able to borrow monies. So we're not a private entity. We're an autonomous body, and we're not independent of the government. We work with the government.
Yes. Yeah. So you said, last thing now, 6 votes in the hat.
Yes.
You're not confident.
I believe we have 8.
What about Jamaica? You believe we have those 2?
I believe we have 8. I mean, having nominated me, I'm expecting Jamaica to vote accordingly.
And your good friend Billy Heaven is going to give you that. Is going to engineer that support for you.
I have every confidence.
Your good friend Billy Heaven.
My very good friend Dr. Bennett and Billy Heaven will ensure.
Although he
that.
publicly stated that it should not be a foregone conclusion that Jamaica will vote your way just because you're a Jamaican.
And I think we presented yesterday, and his board would have seen the value in continuing the work that we've been doing. So I expect that Jamaica will vote accordingly.
All right. Just one last thing.
Last thing.
Shallow and Skerrit, are they a formidable rival? Are they formidable rivals?
I would like to leave alone.
You'd like to leave alone?
Yes.
You're shoulders
and arms.
outside the off stump. All right. We're out of time. The Cricket West Indies president was our guest, and my producers are behind the glass laughing with how many times we've said last question, and yet we found another one. That's it for this segment on the SportsMax Zone. Much more after these. Dave Cameron was our guest.